We are getting there. So hang on a minute. I found a really cheesy, fancy trick. Okay. There we go. Sorry, I just had to do that for fun. So I am sharing, and this is Thursday, the 26th of June at 1 o'clock. And hopefully the live streaming is doing its thing and people are out there in the ether on LinkedIn and on Facebook having a listen in, which would be lovely. If someone comes along to this Zoom live, I will just let them in and say hello and go from there. But otherwise, I shall make a proper start. So welcome to today's live session. I'm Rachel from Taskmaster Fitness, and I help people who are dealing with joint pain, long-term health conditions, or who are just not sure where to start when it comes to exercise, but know that they want to. And today's topic is something that comes up often when I'm speaking with people, either clients of mine or people who I just meet who aren't yet clients of mine. And so this is the sort of thing they get stuck on, or they feel hesitant about if they haven't started yet, is what if I try exercise and it makes things worse? What if I try exercise and it doesn't work for me? And so I thought I would pull this together, share with you things that come up, things that I've learned along the way, things that I help my clients with. And so I've called it You're Not Made of Glass: How to Move Without Falling Apart. So let's get into it, shall we? I have got some notes down here, so if you see me looking down, it's because I'm literally just doing that. So the first thing, let's get to the first slide, shall we? The other cool trick that I've learned is this. Okay. So as you can tell, I like to keep things fun, but also come back to the serious, what's important, what's going to make a difference. Those are the key things. So this first slide then, ever held back because you weren't sure if it was pain or just effort? So I'm talking about in the body, when you're doing something or not doing something because you don't want to make things worse. It may feel uncomfortable. You may have been in pain for a long time. You may not have been in pain, but you're worried about putting yourself in pain. So however you're coming to it, this is what we're going to talk about today, about holding ourselves back. So pain is really individual to everyone. It's really important. I'm going to say the word important again like 100 times. It's really good to know and reassure yourself. And this is actual fact. This isn't just you trying to like shortcut and make yourself feel better. Pain is different for everyone. It's experienced differently. Our pain perceptions are different. What we can handle are different. So that's really important to know and to remind yourself. You can't, if I just think about women and period pain, I can't compare my period pain to someone else's and say, oh, well, I can handle it, so why can't she? Equally, if my period pain was really awful, I can't be like, oh, look, she's just getting on with life. Why can't I? I use that as an example just because I'm just trying to say that you can't compare pain from one person to another. What one person is experiencing, you just have to respect that and respect that in them and respect that in yourself as well. It's really important. And the body gives us different pain signals. It gives us all sorts of information. Sometimes we've spent a lot of time or energy ignoring what our body is telling us, getting on with things. There's a very strong culture or ingrained sort of culture that we have where we say, oh, you just need to get on with it. It'll be fine, just get on with it. And whilst that has its place, often sometimes it doesn't, and we just need to check in with that. So the body can give all sorts of cues for all sorts of things. I'm going a bit off track, but sometimes the body can give us cues about anxiety or stress. So like knot feelings in the stomach or shoulders being up by our ears. There's those kind of cues. It can give us cues about our hunger and our thirst. Again, these often get ignored or overlooked, but they are there. And if you went to, I don't know, like a breath work session or a yoga session, they would really talk to you about those things and help you become more in tune with how your body is thinking or feeling. Sometimes I ask people, I don't do it often. It's not a practice that I would do, but it does work. But sometimes I ask people to close their eyes, or I do have a couple of clients that do close their eyes when they're exercising. Obviously not when they're running. That would be a bit dangerous. But just so that you can get rid of one lot of information from your eyes and focus more inwardly on how you're feeling. So if I talk about I will talk about a couple of my own experiences, but also some client experiences. So one chap that I've been working with recently has had some very severe back pain where he's put his back out. Many people have done that. To a greater or lesser degree, we've all probably got some sort of back related issue, but for him it had been quite severe and quite debilitating. He'd gone back to exercise, and over it, for whatever reason, whether he overdid it or not, it put his back out again. So you can imagine from that standpoint, going back to exercise and thinking, oh God, this was supposed to help me before and it didn't. Like, what am I going to do? And there is still it is still important to exercise, absolutely, but like finding your way back into that is really important. So I just wanted to share that experience in case that resonates with anyone. Another lady that I work with, she slipped down a ladder and shattered her ankle, and it has now been pinned. Obviously there was absolutely pain at the time. I imagine I wasn't there when she did it, and there was a big sort of operation and recovery process after that. But even to this day, she can be quite protective of that side of her body or that leg. And I've got another client who is not the same in terms of she hasn't shattered her ankle, but she's got or has had a sore knee through osteoarthritis. So she has lent on the other one more. And this is, sometimes this is just our body being really cautious and trying to protect stuff. And this is subconscious. And we don't always realize we're doing it until, we're exercising or something comes up that we notice. Or quite often the opposing hip gets a pain and you go and see a chiropractor or an osteopath about that, or a physio, and they're like, oh yeah, it's because you're on the other side, such and such is not functioning as it should. So they're sort of different situations where you can experience pain. One of my own experiences was probably about 6 years ago now. I'd always been able to exercise and never, I guess I was young, so maybe that's how it is. And I'd never really had much, I felt, I'd been rowing for best part of 20 years. So you get used to having aches and pains. You get used to being out of breath and feeling uncomfortable and red in the face in that way. But what you don't realize, sorry, I'm just keeping an eye on the time. What you don't realize, when I then tried to do some different training, it involved weight training and a newish protocol where you combine jumping and weightlifting. There's a lot to it. It is fine to do that. But my body wasn't used to it. And on this one particular occasion, I think I'd done my squats and I was now doing some jumps up onto a box, which I was more than capable to do. but I got this red hot searing pain in my knee, and I literally just backed off and was like, right, stop doing the exercise. We're going to stop working the legs, maybe do a little bit of upper body, and then we're stretching and going home. Like, that's a warning sign. Stop doing that. I think leading up to that warning sign, my knees might have niggled a bit or felt a bit sensitive, but sometimes you can push through that bit of sensitive and it's fine. But on this occasion, I then got a second warning sign. It was like, no. And thankfully, I didn't do any exercise the next day and rested, and I had no, I didn't bust my ACL joint, my ACL or anything like that. So I just, it was fine. But had I pushed through that and kept with the no pain, no gain mentality, I could have come a cropper. The other one I really want to mention, because it's a really common thing, and I fell foul to it. So and it just really made me laugh. As a younger person, like 10 years ago, if people had said to me, oh, I've got this ache or this pain, and I was gardening, I was always like, what? Gardening? Come on. Anyway, I came a cropper. I was helping my friend in her allotment, and she had this long, thin, narrow bed, and it needed weeding. I was like, fine, I'll just kneel on the ground. Knelt on the ground, pick the weeds, and then I was like, oh, my knee's starting to get a bit sore. Maybe I'm kneeling on a stone. So I adjusted my position. And then my friend had a kneeling mat. So I was like, oh, all right, I'll get one of those. And I knelt on this mat. And honestly, I could have been weeding this bed, I don't know, I feel like it was 2 hours or more. Like, it was long. Longer than my arms, much longer. And as I was doing it, I was like, oh, my knees are a bit uncomfortable. And then I tried to squat down on my feet, but that was becoming uncomfortable. And I kept just pushing through, because I was like, look, I've only got a quarter of it left to do. I've done so much. I'll just get this bit done. And my goodness, my knees were so sensitive for days, possibly even a couple of weeks afterwards. I couldn't kneel on them. They felt uncomfortable. I was like, why did I do that? Why? And I understood how it happens, because people just want to get their jobs done in the garden. And I totally get it. But please don't do it. Please don't do it. Have rest. And I will come on to rest in a minute. So yeah, I just really wanted to share that there are different cues in the body that tell you different things. And I also wanted to say and really acknowledge that if you are experiencing pain in your body, that is totally valid experience, and you're absolutely right to acknowledge it. What you do with the information is the most important thing after that. And that's, I guess, where I'm going to move on to next, because if you get this information from your body that you're in pain and you ignore it, you might run the risk of making things worse. If you feel this pain in your body and it's like a hypersensitivity, you might hold yourself back because you don't want to make things worse. And actually getting to know when something is sort of a run-of-the-mill pain, like I get a really clicky ankle sometimes. I wouldn't know unless I was trying to warm up and doing ankle circles. It can sound terrible, and other days it doesn't. And that is, if I get a clicky ankle, it's just not there is nothing there for me to be worried about. And clicky joints, for a lot of people, there'll be nothing there for them to worry about. But if I start to get calf pain, and then makes it really awkward for me to walk, then that's a sign that I should probably be doing my calf stretches, or I should be doing some loaded calf raises, so that I avoid my Achilles getting really tight and stiff, which happens a lot to me. I can show you, to point you in the direction of my friend Lucy, and Laura, who will attest to my Achilles being a pain in the jacksie. But yeah, so there are different levels of pain, and I guess I'm saying it's okay to acknowledge them, and what you do with that information is what is important next. So that is what I will go through next. Sorry, I am aware of the time, and I have barely gotten through what I need to. So when we talk about pain, when you go and see a GP, when you go and see a physiotherapist, there are broadly two topics of pain. Excuse me a second. We have acute pain and chronic pain. Acute pain is normally as a result of some kind of accident, an injury that needs to be fixed. It could be a broken leg, it could be a burn, it could be it's happened as a response to something else. Whilst it's painful at the time, it will heal, it will resolve. It might take a few weeks, but that is the path that it will go on. Chronic pain, however, is more akin to things like osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, like long-term conditions that you live with. Lower back pain is often a chronic condition because it can be hard to find the fix that just sorts it out. That said, some back injuries can be resolved quickly. So, as I said, it's what we do with this information that is important. How do we get this information? And I was saying, like, listen to your body, see what it says. It could be things like, if it's chronic, it could be an instant pain, sharp stabbing. It could be, as I described with my knee, red, hot. There could be swelling. You could be limping. That they're sort of normally related to acute pain, broadly speaking. I have to say broadly speaking so many times because honestly, it's different in different scenarios for different people. So this is why it's really important that you are aware of what it is for you. And then dull aches or stiffness, normally more related to chronic, which is sort of more long-term, ongoing pain. So whether it's acute pain or chronic pain, you can ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is this pain? If I think about the worst pain I've ever experienced as being 10, where am I on that scale? If you're at like a 3, 4, or 5, I'm guessing, I haven't looked up what the NHS says, but it's probably something that you can, well, if it's a 3, you probably definitely self-manage, paracetamol probably. But then if it's like if you're on like a 8, 9, 10, this is something that you should be seeking professional help with. So it's not an absolute science, but it's really just a good way to think about it and ask yourself to keep things into perspective. Because sometimes if we're anxious or worried, quite rightly, then it can just mean that we just can be over fixate. Whereas if we can do something a bit more logical and ask ourselves that question, sometimes it can help rationalize. Equally, if we're trying to play something down and be like, oh, it's not that bad, I can still move it, just then it can be a really good opportunity for us to be like, oh no, actually that is painful, that is affecting my day-to-day life. I do, as much as it's pain in the ass sometimes to get a doctor's appointment, that is what I need to do. Also things, honestly, I think I've tried to cover too much. Things that go along with chronic pain and things to look out for, because it's not always necessarily the pain itself. And to let you know whether the other thing about chronic pain is that you get used to it and you live with it. So many people that I've spoken to who got chronic pain, they're like, I just live with pain. I don't know what it's like to not live with that, to not live with it. It's just there all the time for me. So sometimes it can be really important to look at the other factors, take a holistic approach and look at the other factors in your life that will give you clues as to whether you're managing really well. Maybe you're going through a period of a relapse or a short term, a flare up of symptoms. And these other things, and these are also other things that you can look after so that your pain doesn't get overwhelming, doesn't always let you get into kind of like a really feel sorry for yourself, low mood kind of place. And things to look out for when you're living with chronic pain is, how is your level of tiredness and fatigue? Is it better or worse than it normally is? How disturbed is your sleep? Is it, are you someone who sleeps great all the time and it's bad, or are you someone who sleeps bad all the time but this is particularly bad? So it's what it is for you relative to your situation. Are you increasing or decreasing any reliance on painkillers? Bad moods, you might notice yourself that you're in a bad mood, but also people around you might start to give you signals that maybe you're not, in as good a mood as you maybe some normally are. And then an emotional sensitivity. It can happen to us for many different reasons, but just if you've got more than one of those going on and you're living with chronic pain, that can be really important to notice and start to take care of some of those things. As I alluded to with backache, there can become a hypersensitivity. So whilst I'm saying to you, like, listen to your body, absolutely do, that's really important. But also what's important about listening to your body is knowing whether you're just aware. Like, I was with a client this morning, she's had a shoulder injury in the past, and we were working out today, and she's doing a move and she's like, I'm aware of my shoulder. It's not painful. We weren't making anything worse, but she's more acutely aware to it than someone else might be. So just being able to recognize as well when there's an oversensitivity. Equally, we can go the other way and be blissfully unaware, and we need to tune ourselves in. I've said about clicky joints not necessarily being a sign that there is anything wrong, that clicky joints can just happen. And then, oh yes, a big one that I should cover in terms of signs and symptoms, especially if you're living with chronic pain. So there is something called DOMS, DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. And this is soreness in the muscles that come after doing new activity. So, if you haven't been to the gym for 3 months and then you go back, your first session with a PT is probably going to feel pretty uncomfortable for 2 to 3 days afterwards. But the next week when you go, it won't be as bad as that, and you'll feel fine. The important thing here is that this is muscular pain or muscular discomfort, and that it goes within 72 hours, roughly. Ideally, it's less than that. Maybe it's a little bit more. But if it becomes a problem, and this is a boundary that I give to all of my clients, if it becomes a consistent problem, starts to affect other areas of your body, not get any better and continually keep getting worse, then that is the time to seek for professional help, whether that is as simple as booking yourself in for a sports massage and that may resolve it, or whether it does warrant a GP referral to a physiotherapist. You won't know until you're in that situation. And if you're in that situation already, I hope that gives you some scope of what you're looking for in terms of feedback in the body. Okay, I might have to cut today short. So that's what I was just talking about. Your body speaks in signals, not alarms. If you are getting an alarm, if you're getting a hot red pain like I did, then absolutely, that's an alarm. Do something about that. But otherwise, it's giving you lots of signals all the time. And if you just need to close your eyes at the start, at the end of the day, or in the middle of the day, just to listen to where you are, then you can do that. Some people, like, I connect with my body when I'm using it, when I'm training, I get to know it, and even in the hours afterwards, I can just acknowledge what is happening. And that doesn't make me special by any means. Any of us can do that. We just have to let ourselves listen and not try and rush on with the next job or get to the next appointment or whatever it is. So that kind of, if I can sum up that quickly. So noticing things like if you've been sat too long or you've been too active, and knowing to give yourself either space to rest or space to start moving around. As I said, is the pain getting worse and not getting better? That's a time to take action. could something simple happen, like could something simple help, like a massage or something? And then if you've got chronic long-term pain, actually could having weight training in your life, not over the top weight training, but more working with weights and just a consistency of muscle building training like that, help you to become more resilient in your body, so that you can handle changes and handle things that are just different. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to go through it all in as much detail as I wanted to, but the next thing I wanted to talk about was taking rest. And that is important with acute or with chronic pain. So taking time to rest means allowing yourself a period of time where you are not occupied with other things, that are not causing a strain on whatever pain it is that you have. And that after that time, the important thing is that after that time, you feel rested. Quite often, it's very easy to feel guilty for giving yourself rest time. I know I've spoken to a number of people with joint pain, and they say, if they've had a couple of days where, or however long, it might be one day, it might be a week, where they felt so much pain they haven't been able to do anything, cook, clean, take the dog for a walk, whatever it may be, that then on a day when they do feel good and things are better, that they then try and do more and more and more to make up for that time, and then they inevitably cause themselves pain again. So it's just a reminder that rest is meant to allow you to feel better afterwards. And just because you feel better doesn't mean to say you need to get on with life at 100 miles an hour. Absolutely not. Rest absolutely needs to be part of the plan. There is no, it's going to relate it back to sport, but there are times when, some people have got Garmin's, and that tells you when to rest and when you've used up, not slept enough, not eaten enough, not you've done too much activity, whatever. But you don't need a Garmin to tell you that. You can tell for yourself. And just everyone is recognized as, again, everyone is different. Everyone needs rest at different times. Some people just need rest for a couple of hours at the end of the day. Some people need a rest for a whole day. It really depends on your situation and what you're dealing with, but allowing yourself to rest and giving yourself permission to do that without making yourself feel guilty is so wildly important. And there are different ways of how rest can look. Rest can also, if I just speak about that guilty bit, rest can, and I've seen memes about this on social media, if we rest, but then we kick our ass for being lazy, we haven't really rested. So just bear that in mind. So things that can be restful that people do talk about, for me, they come in 3 broad categories, and I haven't got a name for each category, but the first category is things like meditation, time by yourself, listening to music. I think sometimes can help soothe the central nervous system. And that's relaxing for some people. Some people, when I said that, will have recoiled and been like, oh my God, no. And those people might prefer to go out for a walk, to be outside, to be swimming, to be gardening. They might feel the need to be active, low-key active in their body in some way. Obviously not making their pain any worse. And then the other category that I thought of is some people might prefer to be doing something with their hands, like crochet or cross stitch or baking or cooking or journaling maybe goes in the first one, but whatever it is that helps you to feel recovered, so that when you're done, and that's the other thing, is to give your rest a boundary, because it can eke out into hours and hours of time, but allow yourself that space to rest and think of it as an action on your to-do list. You're not just sitting around, like it's a thing that you're doing. You're resting, you're taking that time. And then when someone asks you what you did that day, you can say, well, I rested, and this is what my rest looked like, and this is how long it lasted. It's a good thing, and rest really helps the body recover from a muscle point of view. When we're working with weights, we need the body to have that rest time so that it can rebuild itself. And without the rest time, we're just continually wearing our bodies out. Oh yeah. So the kind of rest that leaves you feeling better. And I just gave you some examples, so hopefully something in there will have been useful. I'm sorry to have gone through that one so quick, but maybe I should do that on a separate day. So my last point is, ever walked out of an appointment more confused than when you went in? Now, for me, this is about giving yourself permission to have help, use the help, and see it through, because you don't know what you don't know at the end of the day. My clients or my connections who feel a bit stuck and don't know what to do, they're generally probably saying something like, well, even if I can get a GP appointment, or the GP will just refer me to physio and they'll just give me exercises, they won't do anything. Which, I don't mean to poke holes at anybody, but those are genuine things that people think or feel or have said to me. And those people aren't wrong, and the professionals aren't wrong either. It's just there'll be a misalignment somewhere. We won't have got the information that we need. We'll be missing something that we don't yet understand or know that we need. And that is totally okay. So working out what it is that you don't know is important. Sometimes we don't feel like we've been listened to, that maybe the professional doesn't really understand. And it's really important for us to be explicit. That's why that 0 to 10 pain scale is so important, because when you're going to ask someone for advice, you need to give them context and let them know what you're experiencing, and then they can really and truly help you. Telling them how much paracetamol you're taking and being really honest about that. Saying like, oh yeah, I don't sleep very well and I haven't done for XYZ. That's also really important. Okay, let me move on. The other thing is so you don't need permission to ask for what works for you. Absolutely. But what I will say, and you absolutely should ask whatever you don't know, whatever you feel slightly uncomfortable about, or whatever, what's the reason that you're not taking up exercise? What do you need to know? What do you need to figure out? Why is it your GP isn't referring to a physio? What haven't you shared with them? What haven't you told them? What haven't you recognized in yourself? Like, what's missing? Know what's missing, and then share that. The other thing I hear a lot from people with joint pain is they often don't want to talk about their symptoms or what's going on, because sometimes friends and family are a bit too can be over caring, or they're very quick to say, oh, have you tried this heat pack, or have you tried Nurofen, or have you tried? And honestly, if someone is in pain, they have probably tried it, probably tried everything. So just be mindful of that when you're asking. Once you know what it is that you're missing, then where do you go to find out that information? And I've written here, it may be a professional, it may be something that you can buy their expertise. Maybe it's that the NHS offer a service like pain management or physio, and that you need to follow that up to get help. And then friends and family will ask us how we are. And whilst I wouldn't want to encourage you to not lie or not tell them what's going on. Absolutely. Equally, they can be full of advice. So I want you to take some of that with a pinch of salt. Maybe say, thank you for caring, thank you for taking an interest. But when you think about your friends and family in the situation you're in, is there anyone else? If you've got osteoarthritis, is there someone you know that has it too? Can you have a conversation with them about their experience and then see how that feels to you, how that relates to you? Does that work for you? Was there something there that you could see through on? So whenever you get advice, it's really good to what have I written here? It says, when you are given advice, don't assume it's true for you. Try it out, take what works for you, and leave the rest. Which is quite a good saying, I think. It's probably going to become an overused saying, but I think it's quite good at the moment for today. So, as we get towards the end, I hope that's inspired you or given you some food for thought or helped reassure you that, whatever you do for yourself is going to be worth it and it's going to help. So what's the one thing you've wanted to ask but haven't yet? I don't think I have an answer to that, but I wanted to purposely leave that open-ended question for you. What is it that you don't know, or that you feel cautious about, or that you're worried about, that you're not getting the answers to, and that in some way you're kind of metaphorically butting your head up against a brick wall by it? If you think it's something that I can answer, I'm more than happy to have that conversation. I will just give this some boundaries. I've come up with something that I think is funny. So if you have broken your leg, if that has just happened to you, please go straight to A&E. Please don't wait and ask me. That is not going to help. If you have questions about your blood pressure medication, please ask your GP or the blood pressure nurse. They are absolutely qualified. I can talk to you about how exercise can help blood pressure, but not about medication specifically. And then if your partner is doing your head in today, I can recommend exercise as a way to burn off excess frustration, absolutely. But otherwise, maybe see a counsellor. I don't know. But if there is something that you think about exercise that could help you could help your health, and you just want to ask someone that question, then please do come and ask. I mean, this is what this series is about. Maybe I'll cover it in future, but what if I don't? So do ask me the question. That's it. Acknowledge what you don't know and look for intelligent answers. So let me know. Was that useful? Not useful? And just a reminder of the title, you're not made of glass. You're learning what works for your body. So I'd love to hear from you today if there's anything that has particularly landed, something that's maybe reassured you and you thought, yes, see, I was right. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear that. You can reach out to me in any way, like social media, direct message, emails. If you've got my number, you can text me. So I think that's it for now. I've gone on a little bit longer than I'd intended to. So I just want to say thank you for being here today. Thank you if you have listened on the replay and you've seen this through. I really appreciate you. And a reminder that you're not broken, you're not behind, you don't need fixing. You just need a starting point that respects where you're at. So that's it. So this series will continue. The next episode is going to be on Thursday, the 24th of July. I do already have a topic in mind. I can't remember it off the top of my head, and I haven't got a post-it note here telling me what it is. So apologies. But the next one is the 24th of July. I wish you the very best. Oh, I need to try and leave. Bear with. There we go. Have a good one. Ooh, almost there.